think twice before you take someone's advice, even me. You know, everyone that gives out advice, usually off social media, you have to make sure you must understand that everyone's intention is different. Everyone learns differently. Everyone has their unfair advantage, and everyone processes their learning curve very differently. And I say even me because, like, when I give out advice, I mostly try to give out advice on topics that I needed to hear a couple years ago, or I needed to hear maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. So I have reason for my attention to give out advice on what I needed to hear, you know? And I'm not sure if most of these advice are aligning to who you are. And if it is, great. But I recently noticed is that throughout social media is like, everyone is trying to be heard. Everyone's trying to give out advice. And sometimes the advice is really bad, you know? Like, most of the time, not most of the time, sometimes some of the advice are generally just for the views or generally for the clicks of the conversion rates, you know? That's why I say always think twice before you take someone's advice. And, you know, I'm very guilty of this. When I'm on TikTok or mostly on YouTube Shorts, but when I'm on just scrolling on YouTube Shorts and I hear people giving out advice, I like to generally hear what they have to say. And most of the time when people give out good advice, are mostly unscripted, all authentic, no like edits, no really anything. Maybe a little caption, that's okay, but like mostly just them talking off the top of their head. And I think those are generally the authentic people that give out good advice. Now listen, I'm not here to bash anyone that writes their script and, you know, say all that when they give out advice. I'm sure they're all good and all, but I find good advice through there. Another thing I want to talk about on this topic is that everyone learns differently. So when we think of people learning differently, we think of school smart, we think of IQ level, we think of just like creativity and intelligence, right? And some people will not do good in school. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean they are bad at learning or they're dumb or they don't really know how to process information well compared to people that do good in school or good in grades. Take it from me, right? I wasn't always great in school. I was probably average. I would get like 80s, maybe 90, depending if I really liked the class. But that's something that I learned was that my learning curve was different from a lot of kids. Was that my learning curve was that I needed a strong reason why I needed to learn that, right? Let's say, for example, math, right? Algebra, right? Every time I took algebra, right? Every time I had to take a test, I never really cared about it. I never really wanted to learn about it because, like, what am I going to do with algebra? What am I going to have to use algebra for real life situation? When am I going to ever use y equal mx plus b, you know? And knowing that, it's like, oh, okay, that's why I never did great in math. But as I got older, I thought about that more. And what I really thought was that, okay, what do I want to learn? Well, I want to learn about personal finance. I want to learn about how to read better. I want to learn how to write better. And that's what I did. That's everything that I learned because I have a strong reason why. And there's a, you know, research behind that is like when you have a strong reason why to learn something, you can learn anything. But that's just the type of learner I am. Some people are different. Some people like to actually just read a book, get all the information, try to memorize it, and do good on the test. That's their reason, doing good on the test, you know? Same thing with other people, you know? Some people are genuinely just gifted. Some people don't have to learn, you know, study at all, and they'll just ace the test, you know? That's why I say everyone learns differently compared to when you take on advice, you know? Another thing that you should also implement that everyone has their unfair advantages, right? And what I mean by this is unfair advantages can really come from money, intelligence, their location, the people that they know, and the thing that they experience, you know? The first one is honestly money, right? Some people that give out advice, let's say, they say, start up an online business, right? But they have a family that have a safety net of they can start multiple online businesses, and even if they fail, they have a safety net of not going homeless, not being able to pay their rent because they have a safety net of living with their parents, or their parents might have money. That's one of the unfair advantages, and they can do that because they can take on that risk. You know, same thing with intelligence, right? Some people, like I said before, some people are a little bit more intelligent than others, so they process their thought, they process the idea a little bit differently from other people. You know, even location, right? I mean, people that live in America, I know, like, despite all the political belief, despite like the diversity and everything that's going on, America is known for a land of opportunity. Yes, I understand maybe it might be a little bit different today because everything's going up, everything's expensive, but just run off the idea with me that America has more opportunity than other countries, than other third-party country by far, right? I mean, if you were to go to, let's say, I don't know, Puerto Rico, right, and you wanted to start up a business, yes, I understand the tax advantages, but on top of that, you will not be able to start and scale up an online business faster because of your networking, faster because of your income, right? The currency is way different. That's what I mean by location. Another thing is the people that you know, right? People that say they want to become an actor, right? Some people might have better connection than you do, or they might know someone in the industry already. That's why I say always second guess the advice before you take it, because you must process that thought as well. I'm not saying that just because everyone has their unfair advantage that you can't do it. That is by no means. Do not live off that guilt of thinking life is unfair. Think of that life is hopeful, and you gotta find your unfair advantage. And usually your unfair advantages can be things that are small, like I said, your location. If you're born and raised in the US, you have a lot more opportunity than someone in Puerto Rico, you know. If you are book smart, then you have a huge advantage over someone that isn't very book smart, you know. These are the factors that you must come into. Even with money, right? If you have like $10,000 saved, that's $10,000 that you can start to use for your startup business. But another thing I will also say is like making sure that your advice is aligned to you, right? When people give out advice, people tend to just say a lot of things, right? And they usually say this because their intention or meaning, right? They actually want to authentically, mostly 80% want to help you, right? But sometimes that advice you don't always need to take, right? I mean, when I hear advice, I don't always take it because like sometimes their advice is different from what I need to hear. I think a great example is like relationships, right? I mean, relationship advice is a very broad spectrum behind it because like everyone can see it differently. But let's say the relationship advice is like, I don't know, let's say you really like this person, and this relationship advice is like, yo, you gotta go after it, you know, shoot your shot, go up to her and just say what you want to say and see where it goes. But then other people might say, well, instead of doing that, build a relationship, you know, build a friendship and get to know that person, and then as time goes on, then you ask that person out. That's what I mean, like those advice are different. And you know what's funny enough, when I said that was that actually did happen to me in high school, where I really did like this girl. And I remember asking like 2 or 3 different people, and all 3 of them had all different answers, right? And one of them was like, go after, shoot your shot. Another was like, get to know them, you know, become friends with them. Third, I don't really remember the third. I think it was mostly just I think it was like shoot your shot too, but it was a little different approach. It wasn't like go up to her that you don't even know her and just ask her. The second one was just like, you know, become friends with her. And I remember hearing the 3 advice, so I was like, okay, well, what advice really aligned to me? Well, I'm not really the type of person that used to go up in front of a girl and ask her out, you know. I mean, that's a little scary in my part, but maybe it could have worked. My part was like, okay, I want to really get to know this person. I want to really get a connection with the person, because if there is something there, then that would be the best way to find out. So that's what I mean, like, make sure that advice is really aligned to you. And this really goes toward anything really in life, and with any type of advice that you take online, in person, you know. That's why I say make sure it really is aligned for what you want. But yeah, I mean, another thing is, like, don't really overthink it, you know, like, advice, you can take it or go, you know, like, things that I say, you know, like I said, I always try to make sure all my advice are authentic, things that I always need to hear, but sometimes my advice might not be great, you know, maybe, like, the advice I'm giving out on the topic, like, think twice before you take it, that might not be like the best advice. You might like, alright, that's not really great advice, Nick. And I totally understand, because like that makes sense, because it doesn't align for who you are. That's why I made like just think twice. But yeah, that's gonna be it for today. I gotta get going. I hope that it did help a little. I know I try to give out, like, when I give out advice, I try to, like, not really ramble a lot, like, or, like, yap a lot, and I really try to get down to the point of giving out the advice, but I'm working towards it, you know. I think anyone that really does this, like, just talk in front of a camera and just be their authentic self, is one of the best things that you can do for yourself, because you become well-spoken, and you learn more about how you can process your thoughts better. But again, you know, think twice before you take that advice. But yeah, no, I gotta get going. I will see you guys tomorrow, and have a good one. Peace.